Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Steadfast Men Unscripted. To all the veterans today, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your support and your sacrifice and your service to this great country. I thought it was very fitting for me to release this episode today of a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, Adam Jones. Adam is a husband, a father. He is an author of a really great book that I highly recommend. It's called Weapons of Mass Deception. He wrote this after getting out of the military for 10 years. I highly encourage you to read it. A lot of corporate leaders could benefit from this, business owners could benefit from it, and ultimately, obviously, veterans will benefit from it. So thank you for watching the episode. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. As always, if you can like this episode, subscribe to it, comment on it, share it on every single platform you can. It would really, really help me and the success of this show. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy and tune in again for some more. Thanks. Adam Jones, welcome to the show.
What's up, Matt?
Thanks for being here, man. Real quick, before we get started, I'll just explain to the audience how I got to know you. I kind of briefly told you the story, but in case you don't know the full details, it was Man Up Conference in March or April? I honestly can't remember. It was in the springtime.
May?
Though. Oh, it was in May? Yeah, I was totally off of my timeline. But there's a Man Up conference that they have here in Pittsburgh every year. Coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, supports it, and the pastor of Victory Family Church. And so I had recently, got out of a position working for a church, and I was searching for a new job with no regrets of leaving where I was at all. But trying to figure out like where I was going and or what new opportunity God had for me. And I went to that Man Up conference, never been there before. And I remember seeing on the, I don't think you know this, but like I remember seeing the pamphlet that has like the speakers or whatever. And I was going through the list of speakers, like who I wanted to go to. And I saw Black Hawk pilot, Adam Jones, and I was like, yes, I need to go see. I didn't even know you, but I was like, if he's a veteran, I'm going to his seminar or whatever. I don't even think I was registered or not, but I went to your seminar, whatever you want to call it, listened to you, got to meet you, and you started talking about your book, Weapons of Mass Deception. And dude, everything you said was just speaking my heart right then and there, like what I needed to hear. And so that was back in May, apparently. But that's how I got to meet you and connect with you. So once again, thank you for being on the show.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, Man Up actually was a key thing for me when I moved to the city. So, well, not really the city, but near the city, right? Mm-hmm. When we moved to Pittsburgh from Colorado, it was right when the pandemic kicked off, mm-hmm. and they still had a Man Up event. And I went to it, and I remember going like, I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I am. I don't know why I'm here. Like mm-hmm. everything just started to really drift in my life, mm-hmm. After I took off the uniform. And part of that was even just moving to Pittsburgh and being like, everyone here knows each other and I don't know anyone. Yeah. And I went to Man Up.
In 2020?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to Man Up and I was like, I think we all had the masks on and all that kind of stuff. But I just remember connecting with different people, not knowing even what to expect, but just being like, at least there's men of faith here in the city that I can connect to. And year by year, as I kept going, I felt like certain relationships were established. Healing started to come to me through what people would maybe make me aware of, mm-hmm. right? Like what mm-hmm. they were going through, I could connect to. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, I get a phone call probably 3 years ago. Yeah, I think it was just about 3 years ago where, hey, would you be able to speak? I can't, and I need a backup. Hmm. And it was from Sheldon Williams, who's the veteran speaker normally. Okay. And so for 2 years now, I've spoke at Man Up. No way. And I'm like, man, how am I doing this? How am I speaking like with these, giants in the city? And, obviously Mike Tomlin speaking at the exact same time as I'm speaking. And I'm thinking, this is so crazy.
That's crazy.
And I get it, right? This is an outreach and us serving our community. Yeah. At the same point, though, I'm like, I'm not even from Pittsburgh, mm-hmm. and now I'm getting to, reach this city in a new way.
Yeah. So. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah. Real quick, so I didn't know that, by the way, of how you got an opportunity to speak, but I want to plug his book. I want to plug Adam's book here, and we're going to talk about it in the interview. But before we, and you can tell where my bookmark is. I'm still like halfway. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. Books, I'm not the fastest reader. But anyway, one thing that did stick out to me, and I was going to read this on the show. This is in chapter 1. This is what you wrote, and it really spoke to me at the time. Page 27, it says, if your ambition fills up your schedule and removes your ability to say yes to the greater assignments in your life, then it's time for realignment of your priorities. For me, after learning this lesson, I realized that my assignments are clarified through my relationship with God. Clear connections to actions that God has set up for me always come with a greater level of impact and transformation. And so when I was reading that, because I got your book after I heard you speak, I just thought, man, this guy's like speaking my language, talking about like kind of, for me, overcommitting yourself. Sometimes I say yes to a lot of things. One, because I like to provide for my family, but two, because I'm genuinely interested in a lot of things. But I believe you're just talking about high performers and things like that. So yeah, I love your book, and we're going to kind of get into it as the interview progresses.
Well, like to hit on ambition, like I'm a naturally ambitious person. I've always been, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. People like us, people who are probably even watching this, there's probably a level of drive or ambition in them, which is why they're investing in themselves to watch this, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. So I understand that person very well. Like my company, Kingdom Operatives, we work with high performers because I understand the high performer. Yeah. I also know that they're more than their performance and more than their measurements. Mm-hmm. Only reason I learned that is because I sucked so much at one point in my life where I realized, oh man, I'm getting this all wrong. I'm getting all these achievements, but I'm feeling empty. Like, how is that possible to achieve everything you've wanted in life, everything you've ever wanted in life, mm-hmm, and yet to feel like something's still missing? Mm-hmm. That's a really bad place to be, right? Mm. That's what ended up happening to me. I fought very hard to get to these points of achievement, mm-hmm, but yet to feel, hey, how come the achievement didn't give me fulfillment? Mm-hmm. How come I'm not filled? How come there's always a gap? Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that more, but to hit on ambition, naturally ambitious people, we're going to say yes to a lot of things. We're going to lean in and fill up our schedules. But what happens when God has an assignment for us? See, the way I look at it, it's like God created me, and I learned this from others, right? I had a lot of really amazing mentors, and I still do in my life. And one person, he asked the room, he said, what do you see when you see Adam? He asked us to a ministry event, right? So we were at a ministry, kind of like a house gathering in a way. This was just maybe 3 years ago. Okay. And he said, when you see Adam, what comes to mind for you? And it was because I was kind of new to the ministry, and, it was just an opportunity for people to speak into me. And they were like, driven, ambitious, driven. And I'm like, I felt embarrassed thinking that's all I am is driven and ambitious. Like this person's helpful. This person's compassionate. Yeah. Driven sounds selfish. Mm-hmm. And one day I talked to Israel about this, and he said, this was our kind of like head minister. And he said, Adam, if I need to get something done in life, who do you think I'm going to go to? A driven person. Mm-hmm. And he said, so your drive is from the Lord. Mm-hmm. However, you need to make sure you align your ambitions and create availability for mm-hmm. his assignments. Mm-hmm. So ambitious, we can go here, and it's scattered.
Get it done.
You want to get it into alignment to where actually there's something that you're working towards accomplishing, and it's aligned to your identity mm-hmm. and his assignments. So if God has an assignment for us in life, right, which would basically be like, hey, I'm telling you to go do this, or you feel in your heart you're supposed to go say something or go somewhere or volunteer. If our ambition filled it all up, you can no longer say yes to him. So now you got to say no to some of those things, or you decide, well, actually, I'm already full. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but Adam, I'm sending you to go out to work with the United States military. This is like current day for us, right? Mm-hmm. I want you to go out and work with this military base, but you said yes to all these corporations that pay some of your bills, but now you don't have the space to say yes to the thing that I've actually created you to do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So it's like this level of like maturity and discernment of like, do I say yes? Do mm-hmm. I feel peace about this? If I don't feel peace, then I know it's not him mm-hmm. because God has peace, mm-hmm. which means he can give it to me in the situation. Yeah. And if I'm not getting peace from something and I'm just, feeling like a sense of pressure to say yes, or I'm hungry for myself and my own validations, then what ends up happening is you've over leveraged yourself, and when the real thing comes up, you can't say yes.
I was just in this position last night. CLC organization, great organization. Do you know? Okay,
Yep.
Great organization. I was at their event, and you're filling out the card, and you're going down the list of like things like if you'd like to get involved, and there's opportunities to get involved. And so I read that one. It was like looking to in life, raising 2 kids, wife, job. I've this going, other things going. I stopped on that because naturally inside when I read, do you want to get involved in a group, lead a group, whatever, I was like, oh man, I'd love to do this. But then I stopped myself. It's like, Matt, wait, think of priorities. Is God calling you to do this?
Yep.
Is it really necessary right now? And so reading this, hearing you talk, it's all ambition, everything you're saying, like it's all right there. So
dude, that's awesome. Can I throw something in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So ambition is if it's given to us by God, and even if it's just because this is what I like. I like this kind of stuff, Lord. It's like, cool. Right. I created you to like these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as it's like, obviously aligned, right? It's like, hey, I created you for these things, right? It's okay. Like we were put in the garden to live life with the Lord, not just to do a whole bunch of work, and to constantly overthink and, all that kind of, it's like, hey, live life, walk in the garden with God. That was the original intent of the Lord, was to live life with him. So it's like, hey, go live life, explore, like enjoy those things. At the same point, I think it's just important to always, recognize that there is those areas that we're going to be called to contribute to.
Yeah.
And there's those areas where I'm just doing this because I like this. So it's a cool, I don't know, there's like this balance to it in a way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Balance is a great word.
Yeah.
Balancing your family, your house, So I want to get back to the book, but I want to also, like I do with every guest, do a quick life story on you and how you got to this point. So we'll get back to that at the end. Real quick though, where are you from? Where were you raised? Born and raised? Let's start there.
Okay, so I'm from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. So it's like north of Philly area.
Okay.
Yep. And then lived there pretty much my whole life until going off to college. I went to Penn State.
Okay.
And did Army ROTC, commissioned as an officer in the Army.
Sweet.
First as a military police officer, and
Security
then
force?
as an aviator. Yeah. So I wanted to be a pilot my entire life. Since I was like 5, I wanted to be a Black Hawk pilot, right? Like I really did. Like I was that young, like, oh, I'll do that,
Yeah.
And I just got older and I kept wanting to do it more.
And
I go through the whole path of getting good grades in school, going to college, because you're supposed to go to college to become an officer. And I'm about to commission. And then I found out I didn't get aviation. I got military police through my guard unit. Okay. And I'm like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. I did all of this for this one thing and I didn't get it. Now, what's interesting is, the end of the story is I end up eventually branch transferring and I do get aviation. I do become a Black Hawk pilot. And that's where you and I were talking about, I have everything I ever want and yet I'm empty. So eventually I got it all. And how is there still a void here, Lord? This doesn't make sense, So anyways.
Interesting. Were you raised in a Christian home?
Yep.
Okay. So you grew up in the church, one of many kids, only child?
Yeah, I had a brother, I have a brother and sister, 18 years and 16 years older than me.
Okay.
So I was the baby by a ton.
Okay.
And then they immediately had kids when I was just a couple years. When I was in kindergarten, I was an uncle. And then I have 7 nieces and nephews.
Wow.
It's funny, right? Like I am someone who's always drawn to leadership, putting myself in positions of leadership, teaching leadership. And then even as a little kid, right, you got all these little ones that you're trying to, rally and think of fun things to do as a family. So yeah, 7 nieces and nephews. And yeah.
Were you driven were you in sports? Were you driven as a kid?
Yeah.
You saw
addicted. I was addicted to achievement, right? Because I came from a low ambition family.
Okay.
Right. If you ask me, I think, it's kind of more like, hey, we're just going to do our thing. And wasn't really big dreams or goals or vision or anything. And I would say God put that in me from birth, probably. At the same point, I over leveraged. I went too hard in the wrong direction of just trying to accomplish everything,
Yeah.
make my life matter in a way, not realizing it already does matter. Right. So anyway, so in high school, I was lacrosse player, martial arts instructor, Civil Air Patrol.
Jeez.
Yep. Yeah.
Filled schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. And going to school, right.
Always doing something,
Yeah. Lacrosse captain, I was defense. I was very big into that sport. And then, the Civil Air Patrol thing, I started at 12, and then at 12 years old, I started flying planes. At 16 years old, I soloed.
That's crazy.
17, around 16, 17, I was probably one of the top 3 people in the state of Pennsylvania, in Civil Air Patrol. So just achieve, go, go, And look, that's what I'm saying. I get those people.
Yeah.
I love those people. I think we're meant to do this. But are we doing it in alignment?
Yeah.
Is it the right things? Is it for us? Is it next or now?
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's coming, but don't rush it. There's lessons for you to learn right now.
So you joined, I'm assuming then you joined the military at 18?
Yeah, I did Army ROTC and just regular ROTC at Penn State.
Yeah.
And then within a year, I enlisted in the National Guard.
Okay.
So I could start my time in service, and I would this is how I thought, I would guarantee my future of being an aviator, because if you go guard, you can go find your slots and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is such an amazing thing.
Best kept secret, I think.
It's so good. So you can be like, active Army, they can put me anywhere.
Yeah.
But in the Guard, I could be like, all right, so what units have these vacancies, and how do I interview almost, right, to get that slot?
Yeah.
And for an aviator, you got to get the slot, and then you got to get the flight school slot. Well, I got the slot, I didn't get the flight school slot, which meant, hey, you got to go find a new home, dude. Like, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah. I'm just trying to understand that. Well, because mine was just different. It was, I was here in Pittsburgh. It was go do your basic tech school. You're coming home. Like, that's it,
Okay. Yep.
So with yours, you took you said you had the slot. So then was it, but
yeah,
then
as a cadet.
Okay.
So you're a cadet in a Guard unit.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis going to drill.
Okay.
You're in an aviation slot.
Okay.
Which means you will be an aviator as long as you get accepted for flight school.
So then why'd they not
flight
accept
school
you or
only
something?
has so many slots.
Okay.
So there's still a level of competition even within the state.
I see.
So it's like, hey, there's actually 2 parts of the story. One is we're only sending 3 people to flight school right now.
Okay.
And there's like maybe 9 interviewing.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
So that was one thing.
Okay.
And then at that point they would just, find someone else to move into your positions that you had originally. But the other is like a cultural fit, and making sure that like they really believe that you're right to be an aviator, like when it really comes down to it.
Interesting.
And Pennsylvania said no to me because I got a job in DC working full-time with the Booz Allen Hamilton, big defense consultant, contracting company. Immediately out of college, right? Because you're Guard, so you're not going to be full-time. Right. Sometimes you are. I mean, I had 10 years in, and 7 years of it was active. Okay. So it was a lot of full time for me. But initially, you're coming out of college, you got your degree, you're commissioned. And in the world of flight school, you would be slotted for a flight school slot. You'd go away for a year and a half, and then you'd come back to your unit, and you'd be, 1 week in a month, as well as flying about once or twice a week on top of that. That's like the aviation world. For me, they said, there's no way you're going to do that and live in DC, right? There's no way that we are going to have someone in Washington, like Northern Virginia, Arlington areas where I lived after college. And that's where I was working full time as a defense consultant, right? So anyway, so if we send you to flight school, what's going to happen is Pennsylvania is going to pay this bill, and then you're going to switch to Virginia or DC. Yeah. Right. And then they get a free pilot, and we paid for you to go to flight school. And they said, like, the track record is just against you. This has never, ever worked. We've never had anyone live down there and drive up to Indiantown Gap, in Harrisburg on a weekly basis on top of their civilian job and maintain all their flight minimums and everything. They either stop being an aviator because they can't keep their flight minimums up, because it's the same as active duty. There's no difference. We have to fly just as much as an active duty minimum. Or you could transfer, and then we lose our pilot that we just spent, like $1 million on. Yeah.
So then what happened? Did you end up quitting that?
Yeah, I mean, my
civilian
dreams
job?
were crushed, dude.
Yeah.
It was crazy when I found out 3 months before commissioning, 3 months
Man,
before
oh,
I finished
man.
college, you're not going to
Not
be an
selected.
aviator. Yeah, you weren't. Yeah, right. You haven't been selected.
Jeez.
And I'm like, no. That's not how this story goes.
Not part of the plan.
I start flying at 12, you know? Like, I already know I like aviation. I'm already getting good grades. I'm already doing all this extra work, you know? And by the way, you talked about like, how was I in high school? Well, in college, I was student government. I was the tour director for tours at Penn State.
Always part of something.
Yeah, Army National Guard, and more, right? I mean, why though, right? See, the thing is, would I go do that again? Absolutely not. I would not recommend that to anyone. You got to know that when you say yes to something, you say no to everything else that can take its place. So by me saying yes to this and this and this and this, I've said no to all the other options. True. It's such a big deal when someone commits to you, like time or anything, because it's like, oh, you chose to use that time, that volunteer effort, right, on my mission or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So anyways.
And especially whenever you have a person like you who, when the Bible says, let your yes be yes and no be no, I don't know how you are. Usually, like for me, it's like, if I commit, then I am there, because then I have to fulfill my commitment. You know what I mean? So you just talking about that, I guess, it's interesting, because like if I say yes to something, then I'm going to be there. But then now that just filled time, and it took time away from other obligations or things I should be doing or whatever. So, all right, let's keep moving. So you got that 3 months before graduation, you find this out. You ended up taking the job in Virginia, right?
Yeah, you're good. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then what?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I need a slot right now. I'm about to commission as an officer, and I'm not going to be an aviator. And now I'm in the Guard, and now I have to find my home.
Yeah.
You got to find a slot now. Okay. So what are you doing? Because it's Guard, again, is kind of, especially for officers, it's more of, I'm picking up the phone, I'm calling the units, you know. Active Army and you know, I would assume Air Force and all of them, you know, they're going to find the place for you.
Yeah.
This is, I got to find my home right now. So I'm calling Pennsylvania looking for more, Pennsylvania's out at this point. So now I'm looking in Virginia. Do you got any flight slots? Right. So I'm starting with aviation. You got any flight slots? No, we don't have any flight slots. What do you have? We have like engineers, and I think it was like military police or something, like for officers to go into right now. Like there has to be a vacancy to fill, right? It's just like a job. When you apply at a company, they have to have a spot for you.
Yeah.
So anyways, and I'm calling DC, and I'm calling Maryland, I'm calling all these. And eventually DC's like, we have military police. And I'm like, no.
Not really.
No, you know, my life is over. Anyway, so I take the MP slot. Dude, I'm destroyed, you know. Yeah. But here's the good news. I go to MP school. Well, actually, before going to MP school, I ended up meeting my wife, who I met at Penn State in DC again.
Okay.
And, you know, all made sense after
crazy.
that. Yeah, so I met her at Penn State. Then I met her again in Arlington, Virginia.
Wow.
As an, you know, Army MP working full time with, I said, like, you know, suit and tie defense consulting company.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it was like, I know you, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, we started dating for that 1 month. Then I went away for military police school for 5.5 months.
Jeez.
Came back to Virginia. You know, we're engaged in just a couple months after that. Yeah. And now we've been married for over 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
it was all worth it. You know, that's the whole thing. It's like God can see the bigger plan and you can't. You know? Yeah. And then I became an aviator, right? Eventually I still became a pilot.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to, I can't remember where. So you went away, you're MP, you know, now you got married.
Yeah. I'm doing the MP thing as
How long did you do that for?
Guard guy. Let me think, maybe 2 years total as an MP lieutenant, you know,
second lieutenant.
And then I was working a counter drug assignment, and the counter drug commander was an aviator.
Okay.
I was like, hey,
can you
just
help
so
me
you
out?
know, man, you know, I don't want to be an MP.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you know, why don't you go apply for a flight school slot? We have some slots open. And I was like, I would love that. And then that's a long story, but man, I fought so hard to get my name into that list. Yeah. And then the doors did open, and
Really?
Yeah.
So then where was the first path then? Where was the slot located? Colorado then?
DC. Yep. Oh. DC aviation slot. Yep.
Okay. So then you started in DC. And how'd you end up then in Colorado then?
My story is way too confusing, man. You don't want to go
Should I
down
not
this
even
road.
try the timeline?
You don't want to
Okay.
go down this road. Yeah, so basically, remember full-time job, right? My full-time job was in DC, and then it switched to Colorado.
Okay.
So now I got to find a slot in Colorado.
I see.
But now you're an aviator, so it's very easy. It's
Oh,
like,
out
you
and
already have your wings?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, we got a spot for you. You're free. You are a free
I see.
purchase for us. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because a state's budget paid for you to fly, to learn how to fly.
But now you have your wings then, you're already set, you're not...
Yeah.
know. And I feel like guard people would kind of understand with the
Eventually
civilian...
it all...
Yeah, balancing civilian life and all that. So,
and then you have then this actually happened. Then you have a Colorado person who was trained to fly, who then goes to DC, and it's just like a swap. It doesn't happen that way like automatically, but it's just the way of the world.
Yeah,
which is literally I'm in Colorado and I know someone else who's like I need to transfer to DC.
Interesting.
So it's like it all works out.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so so it seems like the locations can get a little confusing, and for the audience's sake, I'm a person that I love to know the details, but I'll keep pushing forward. So, so just tell us then about your military career as a pilot. You know, I know in your book you talked about an experience where you were drifting, or maybe it was at that conference when you talked about when you were flying that one time.
Yeah.
And you know your co-pilot said like, "Hey, you're drifting." Just share with us things that you've learned in the military. You know, different experiences.
Well, no, I mean, I loved, my time in. So like I said, I was in for 10 years in the Guard. 7 of those years were active, whether it was active duty orders or active Guard reserve, right? So I most of that time was uniform is on, right? So especially as an aviator, you get a lot of opportunities to just like do this stuff full time.
Yeah.
So anyways, living in Colorado, I became the aircraft maintenance company commander eventually.
Okay.
So I'm running all aircraft maintenance for Buckley Air Force Base.
Okay.
And, I had about 100 soldiers at the time, multiple platoons, officers, all of that. And yeah, it was good. You know, I really, really enjoyed it. I did feel like it takes a lot from you, you know, and you're kind of like, man, how do I keep this thing all together? I'm a new father. I'm a husband, you know, and like, feel like I'm constantly being spread thin. And then my ambition is making me say yes to everything else on top of that, outside of the Army, you know, any business opportunity I'm in, you know, kind of thing. It was so terrible. I was just running on fumes. And I will, share that one lesson that you talked about, which was basically there was a moment that I think is a key lesson in my life that I love to share with others, which was I was in the aircraft. We were doing a hoist rescue, dropping a medic below the aircraft, and my job is to be the pilot on the controls. I got to hold this aircraft in position 50 feet above the ground, surrounded by trees under night vision goggles. And I'm holding everything together, right? But without noticing it, my aircraft began to drift to the left. And ideally you should catch that, but you do need a team. And for me, my crew chief called it out and said, aircraft's drifting left. And when that was said, you're supposed to acknowledge it. You're supposed to say, Roger, got it. I didn't say anything. I just felt so, like maxed out, and I was trying to keep everything together, and I didn't even realize how I stayed quiet. So then all of a sudden he screams, he's a aircraft drifting left. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so just imagine this, you got a human being underneath this aircraft, like on a hoist, your aircraft's drifting to the left towards the trees. All of a sudden I realize I got yelled at. I go, right.
Overcorrect.
Yeah. Overcorrect. Now we get a swing underneath us with this medic, who's like a pendulum. And I go, oh, Roger, sorry, got it. Moving right. Hang on, guys. I'm getting behind the aircraft. Winds are hitting really hard. And he's like, dude, stop explaining yourself, that was kind of the lesson. It was really just shut up, right? Just shut up, okay, got it, hold the aircraft in position. All right, look, now we got the medic swinging, right? And they're trying to work the cable, like the crew chief is grabbing the cable, trying to counteract the swing to stop that. Because if you pull that medic up as he's swinging, she's going to swing faster. So you have to work, it's called working it out on the cable. So he's like, I'm working him out on the cable, just hold position, okay? Hold position, all right. And then the other pilot's just kind of watching me, hands off the controls. And he's like, all right, just stay calm. You got it. Okay. All right. Let's pull the medic back up. All right. Medic's coming up. Cabin door's shut. Let's get out of here. So we pull the aircraft up to a 200-foot hover. And that's when they shared this lesson with me, which was, look, no one here cared that the aircraft drifted. What we care about is that when we called you out on it, you didn't acknowledge it. You didn't let us know you heard us. And then when you finally did, you gave these big, long explanations and stories, like that made the situation worse. And that's really the big lesson here, right? Wow. Is people didn't care that I drifted. Yeah. They cared that when they called out the drift is just a deviation from where I said I'm going to be and where I actually am. So I want to be here, but I'm really here. That's drift. And you drifted. And when we called it out, which we're all part of this thing, like you're putting everyone's life in jeopardy. You didn't say anything. And the second time you just over-explained. That's not your job. That's not what you've been trained to do. You've been trained simply, there's 3 steps, right? Someone announces drift. Next person acknowledges the drift. And then you assess what you want to do about it and what's causing it. I jumped ahead. He went from announcing to me assessing, like, what's happening? Oh, I think it's the winds. It's like, no, dude, no one even knows you hear us. So think about that for our own personal life, like if you're drifting in life, like for me, I was drifting as a husband, as a father, as a man. My wife's calling it out, but I'm not acknowledging it. I don't want her. I'm like, oh, well, this is why I didn't put away the groceries in time. This is why I messed up with the washing machine that you mentioned, right? Yeah. This is why. And it's like, I'm jumping to assessing what caused something and what I want to do about it. It's no, first just say, you hear me. Yeah. Stop with the explanations, Adam. That's what my wife taught me.
So many different applications I can go into right now because I'm thinking about family, your wife, drifting in life as a father, letting things go in your marriage, your kids, or whatever, but then also with God, your relationship with God. He desires us to be obedient to what he calls us to do. So I'm like trying to decide of just different avenues that I could dive into. But that's just a powerful story that you share, how we can get caught up, I guess, in thinking about too much and distracted and stuff like that.
Think about this from like the way God speaks to us compared to the way the enemy would try to speak to us, right? God says, this is who you are and this is what you do, right? Like Jesus gave us this example consistently. I am, therefore, I am the resurrection and the life. Therefore, eventually Lazarus rise, right? He would announce to the world and to the atmosphere to respond to him based on his identity. Well, we're supposed to, do what Jesus, like we're supposed to be with Jesus, become like Jesus, and do what Jesus did. Right. That's being, that's the disciplines themselves. And if he showed us, hey, you announce who you are and things will respond to that. I think for me, the enemy wants you to think what you did is who you are. God goes, who you are is who you are. So in the example of drift, what you did is who you are. You are drifting. Therefore, I don't know, you're a drifter, or therefore you're unreliable. Therefore, you're a terrible man. You're a terrible person. Therefore, and the point is, it's a inverse, right? Like we got to flip it. It's who I am is who I am. What I did is where I am. It's not who I am. And that's the power, I think, of the drift concept that I was taught in the cockpit that day, which is, dude, no one is you don't need to feel shame and guilt right now, about this situation. We just need you to acknowledge that it's real. And I think that's something that we need to remember as men, right? Is like, when I drift, that is not who I am. That is where I have moved towards. And God's going, let me pull you right back in.
Right.
That aircraft is just out of position. It's the same thing with our life. We can get out of position. And the enemy wants you to just beat yourself up and hide and run. And God's going, I never ran from you. I don't hide from you. In the garden, mankind turned from God and hid. He did not do that to us.
Yeah. So good. And to not quit too, okay, you drifted, don't quit, get back on track, remain steadfast, hence the show, Steadfast Men I'm trying to speak to guys to remain steadfast in their life, or if they're drifting with their family, their kids, their families in shambles or whatever, hey, just acknowledge it and then correct it, and then, walk with the Lord and watch the Lord literally turn your situation and get you back on track. Man, I love that story. I love everything you've learned and everything you're talking to. So when you got out, let's talk about, just because of time purposes. You ended up doing 10 years. That situation happened to you. So when that situation happened, is that kind of whenever you started waking up to what was going on? Is that when you wrote the book after you got out of the military?
Yeah,
I believe, right?
Right.
All right. So anything else?
I would say, so that happened to me, and that's when I learned, dude, you got to take ownership. You gotta own up to what's happening, and a mature person acknowledges when someone calls something out and makes the adjustments. Someone who would be more immature, or like an amateur even, right? Like, it's like professional versus amateur. I'm with the professionals now, and the professionals are going, dude, we called you out. No big deal. Why didn't you acknowledge it? Yeah. But an amateur would be like, well, let me try to explain to you like what's happening. I'm trying really hard, and it's the wind's fault.
Yeah.
It's the wind's fault.
Right.
This is a hard situation. It's like, oh my gosh, no one cares, dude. So that's, I think, when I started to think more like a pro, of the way I led and the way I flew. There's plenty of amazing lessons from the cockpit that I share. But what I would say is, eventually I got to the point where, that was earlier in my career. Eventually I become a company commander, like I said, and I reach a point of just realizing that I'm not supposed to do this anymore, that maybe something's wrong in my home and I could fix it by getting out. My whole thought process was, right now I'm not available. If I could just make myself available to my wife and daughter by creating space, right? Yeah. That would solve everything. Well, what was taking away my availability from them? The military. So I'm going to take myself out, which was a very, very hard decision. But I really felt like a peace. That's why I always teach, like, you got to follow peace. Mm-hmm. I felt peace about the hard decision. I didn't feel like I was rushed and hurried and overthinking and wrestling. It was like, no, dude, I know this is the answer. Yeah. And I thought that one answer was the whole story. You know what I mean? When I get out, it will get out. Mm-hmm. My stress, my tension, my anxiety, my anger, these things will leave, right? I will be relaxed. I will be there for them by creating availability.
That's what you thought.
That's what I thought. And what I learned was, availability does not equal presence. That you can be available and not be there. And that's what I did. Now I'm in front of you, and you're going, hey, where are you, Adam? That's what my wife was doing. Out. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, obviously there's parts of the story that we probably would need to unpack, but I always had trouble being present. I always had trouble being where my feet are. Like right now with you, I'm fully here. Yeah. That would not have been just a couple of years ago. I didn't know how to. My mind would be thinking of all the other things coming up, and, missing the moments, right? That this is the only thing that we have right now is this moment. So anyways, I think for me, realizing if I just make myself available to them, that will be fixed. And then seeing how it didn't work in that direction, everything actually got worse. I was like, this doesn't make sense, God. Mm-hmm. Like, let me I'll slow down here and like draw like a little bit of a storyline. Basically what ends up happening is I'm thinking something's wrong with me and my marriage. We're fighting a lot. My home is a home of tension, not peace. And I'm a man of faith. You talked about like for me, I've always followed Christ. I would say my relationship is so much deeper now in the past couple of years since getting out, because I had to lean on him more. Yeah. But anyways, so I'm thinking, God told me to do this. I said yes. And how do I know God told me to do it? Because I could feel it in prayer and I could feel it in my heart. I'm supposed to get out. So I get out. I'm thinking, if I do what God says, life's going to be easier. Yeah. How am I now having harder conversations in my home? How is my wife getting more upset with me about not finishing certain tasks, about, not being fully present, about not being an intentional father? I'm going like, this isn't me. This doesn't make sense. And then what ends up happening is I make this hard decision and I'm about to get a divorce, is what's starting to come up in our conversations. And I'm thinking, no way are we getting a divorce. We don't get divorces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my wife's like, I'm not happy, Adam. You're miserable. And, like I can't stay around while you're, miserable all the time. That was her perspective on it. Mm-hmm. And I remember going, how is this happening? I gave up my childhood dream for my marriage, for my daughter, and I'm going to lose them still. And it was so painful and it was so confusing to be like, what is happening? I listened to you, Lord, and now it's worse. And I think that's what happens to a lot of veterans and active service members, which is why I work with installations and, very high level leaders in the military now to basically say, from a perspective of people getting out thinking everything's gonna be better, that's not how it works. And also if you're in now, you can learn how to live a life where you are free, where you do enjoy the times that you have, whether it's in the work end or family end, right? So, what comes to mind for me here is just like how confused I was. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And
I will say now, I was drifting. And I have a couple things that I recommend people check in on with themselves to know if you're drifting. Right. So I call these like the progress display panel. It's your instruments. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's your instruments, because your instruments don't lie to you.
Right.
Peace, purpose, power, and people. Right. Where's your peace at? From a scale from a 1 to a 10, what would you give yourself? Power. How's your energy doing right now? Your purpose. Are you aligned to your purpose? Do you, how does that feel to you? Do you really feel like you're living the life you were called to live? And then people, your relationships. And for me, I had a lot of broken relationships, and I'm about to lose my wife too now. And I'm going, something has to change. So anyways, eventually I got to the point of just deep prayer, and God started to send people, and they started to show me what was happening in me,
people from the church, close friends, God started to send people to just kind of help you realize these things. And then is that whenever then you began to just buckle down in prayer, like you said, write the book, get right with your wife.
Well, so
if you want to get into that, or
what I would say
just to help the guys listening.
Right. I think what God did is he showed me, I hear you.
Yeah.
Very quickly. It was, I hear you, Adam. I'm listening to you, and I'm not as distant as you think I am. Because I was never like, other than that one thing, like, God, I think God's telling me to get out of the military, like that peace.
Right.
There was never like a word from the Lord or anything, or like, I feel like God's saying this. Like, that wasn't how I used to be. That's definitely completely changed because I didn't think he was speaking, not realizing he's communicating to us every day, all day, in many different ways.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, as a business owner, because I'm trying to like improve my life. So I have this business to serve and help others, not realizing my own life is falling apart. And I'm like, man, I really feel like I need to like work on my like brand of my company. Right. This was a different company, not the one I currently have.
Okay.
And all of a sudden this person reaches out to me and is like, hey man, I feel like God wants me to help you with your brand for your company.
Wow.
And I was like,
you're just praying about that.
Yeah, dude, let's do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then I'd be like, man, I feel like the Lord is, I'd be talking to someone and they'd go, I feel like God wants you to know Matthew 6:33. I'd say, oh, okay. What's Matthew 6:33? Then, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things will be added onto you.
Yeah.
So alignment, prioritization, seek the kingdom first and his righteousness. Well, guess what happens like 2 days later? I feel like God is telling you to read Matthew 6:33. I'm like, oh my, yes, Lord. So Lord, I feel like God started to talk to me through people. And when I saw how consistent this became, it just kept, these things kept happening. And I would pray, and then God would send people into my life who had like, they were healed, they were healthy. and they understood what I was going through at that time without me even realizing it was I didn't know what was happening to me. You know, I just knew I was trying to fight to win my wife back and stuff. I didn't know it was a lot of what was going on inside and how I was seeing the world. So anyway, so that opened up the world to me when people started to do that. And then, you know, I had a mentor of mine who wrote the foreword for my book. One day he was like, you know, Adam, the military did a lot of really good things for you. Like, you're a Black Hawk pilot, you know, like you were a company commander and a captain. Like, you've probably helped a lot of people. And I think that's awesome. Now, this guy served in the military in a different country, South Africa. Okay. And he goes, it also did some damage to you. And I remember being like, you know, I barely knew this guy. And I was like, damage?
Right. Yeah.
Dude, this has only made me who I am. That's what I'm thinking in my head, right? And it's like, well, you know, there's some soul damage in you. That is what he told me. There's some soul damage. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but sounds right. You know? And he said, you have made your whole life about your performance. And this is before the military, most likely. And he just kind of, there's a minister, right? Very senior level minister. He just kind of started to say, I think there might be some things in some of your relationships, maybe it's family or something, that has moved you to perform so much and to always just do more and give more and try to be everything for everyone. And that has worn you down, you know? And this is kind of like the message, like, I can't remember word for word, but that was like the message was like, dude, you're just giving your best to everyone and you keep getting the leftovers, and so does your wife and daughter. And that, it broke me open, you know, to kind of think about it that way. And that's when I started to learn some of the language that you read in the book. It wasn't said to me in this way. You know, this book is uniquely from me, but the mindsets and the concepts that were shared with me, I had to package them for a certain group, right? Yeah. For warriors. Which, by the way, they're not all people who wore uniforms. It's warriors, high performers. It's people who, man, they're willing to fight and stand up for what they believe in. When other people might hide and run, you know. That's who that's for. But what he started to show me was, he would say, like, you have found your value in your performance. Now, if you read the book on the part where we talk about the weapons of mass deception, the first weapon is called the pressure of performance. So see how that was revealed to me through a conversation? Yeah. Like, wait a minute, there's this constant pressure to perform and to do more, thinking I'll become more. And I think if I do more, you'll like me, you know, and then maybe I'll like myself. Right? Well, where's that all coming from? Not God.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
Jeez. You're spot on a lot of these things. I like how you said it's also not just for the men and women in uniform. It's high performers, you know, and they don't have to be in the military. Like, this show has had a lot of veterans, but not everybody. So I just love all the lessons that you've learned, and I feel like this could be a 3-hour episode, but unfortunately, due to time, we gotta kind of wrap it up. So man, there's so much I'd love to dive into. So I want to plug where people
we can go a little bit longer if you want.
Is that all right? Okay. Yeah. We can plug your book so that people can get it. I'm assuming they can buy it on Amazon, or maybe there's another link that people can buy it from. Right?
Yeah, Amazon's great. Yep.
Okay. All right.
I make like $1 from it when it goes to Amazon, but it's just so much easier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if there's any other ways that people can buy your book, I'll put it in the show notes, you know, so that people can buy your book, Weapons of Mass Deception. But before we end, tell the audience and the guys that are listening where they can reach out to you, how they can connect with you. I believe you have is it a mastermind? Maybe not a mastermind.
Yeah, we have a couple things, right?
Yeah, so let's plug all that. Kingdom Operatives.
Tell the story. Yeah. All right. So eventually, as I was in my journey of like really getting healed, which, by the way, I believe healing is much more about subtraction than addition. Okay. Right? Success is much more about subtraction than addition. The most successful people, you know, they were probably pretty streamlined and focused, and they probably said no to a lot of things, right? So this book, right, Weapons of Mass Deception, takes people through a 4-step process. The first one is we define the weapon that is not just causing us harm, but the people in our life. That's so key. I wasn't willing to get better and healthy and stuff because I thought I was fine. Like, whatever, dude. Like, drive on, you know? I wasn't willing to do that for me. But when I saw that my wife was stressed out because I was stressed, when I saw that my daughter, you know, was missing a bond of a relationship with her father because of me getting in my own way, you know, and really the enemy messing with me and causing me to drift, right? It was like, I'm going to go fight against this. So that's the first thing is we define the weapon. The second thing is we detect which deception. There's 4 weapons of mass deception that I think are pretty accurate. You know, we constantly hear great feedback. I'm working with Chief Master Sergeants in the Air Force, full bird colonels, generals, brand new enlisted, corporate executives, senior executives. Like, it's like, I'm like, wow. Like I thought 5 people would read this book. You know, like my mom, my wife, maybe a friend or two, I'm nothing famous, right? But I really did believe that God wanted this written. I believed it so wholeheartedly that this is about a message, not a man. And I have to now share all my vulnerabilities, all the dark, scary stuff. I got to put it out into the whole world because in my weakness, he's made stronger, right? Amen. And it's like, I'm sharing all the gaps. I'm sharing that I was only in the Guard. I'm sharing that I never deployed. And I'm realizing all these people are going, and then I'm realizing all these people are going, same.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who don't want to speak up, you know, because they feel like, well, I don't meet the image. I don't meet the mold. Yeah. So the second step was detect the deception. And I will share one of the deceptions right now, the cycle of comparison, which is I'm constantly comparing myself to others, feeling like I'm not enough, or I was only, even compared to the image I have in my head for what right looked like or what success looked like, to where I met a Marine who served for 4 years, and he said, he said, I didn't do much. And I was like, oh, like, what do you mean you didn't do much? And he was like, well, I was only in the Marines reserves.
Only 1% of the population, well, actually, Marine less than
1%. And I go, oh, okay. You know, he doesn't know my story yet, right? Yeah. We're just getting to know each other. And he's like, yeah, but like, I also like never deployed. And I said, were you asked to deploy? He said, no. I said, so why are we beating ourselves up and feeling shame for not doing things that we were not asked to do? And you could tell he was just like, what? I said, you weren't asked to do that, but you're holding yourself back in your life. Because you could see that all this, he had the weight of the world on him, right? Yeah. And guess what he told me? He said, I don't tell people I was in the Marines because I don't want to let them down on what a Marine is, because I don't think I meet the image of it. Jeez. So I went through college after getting out of the Marines, just starting college, feeling behind because my buddies just graduated college. And then I got to tell everyone, oh, you were a Marine? And then, oh, where'd you go? Did you deploy? No, I didn't. And he was like, I just stopped telling people. Man. Crazy, right? That's crazy. The cycle of comparison. It was only. And that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants you to disqualify yourself from the callings of the Lord by saying, well, it's not enough. Dude, according to that book, for a traditional military person to write a book, same, right? Army captain, National Guard, and everyone, this is what people think of. They think of Black Hawk pilot. Yeah. Never deployed, right? Now, did a lot of cool missions and stuff, absolutely in the U.S., but like never deployed. And then people go, oh, wow, like, well, I deployed 3 times and I'm struggling with the same thing he just said. I want you to catch it. It's the weirdest thing. It's because if I'm allowed, if I'm here in the totem pole and you're here, right, and I'm struggling and I'm being vocal about it, you're allowed to too. How weird. Total flip. It's
crazy to think about, but it's so true.
It's a total flip,
because if you're, have this 5 person tours or whatever,
go ahead.
Then if like you have 5 tours, whatever, that puts you on a higher totem pole. But in reality, it's like, dude, you have to give yourself, not to give yourself credit, but in a sense, give yourself credit, I guess, for the things that you've learned, the lessons you've been through. Yeah. You know, I don't know if I'm...
Oh, totally. And like the corporate world, we see people like...
It's a comparison game.
Yeah, yeah. And like, think about this. So this person usually doesn't talk. This person doesn't, share who they are in a book or something like that. Right. These are the people who write the books. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm not like them. So I don't have that story. I don't have post-traumatic stress. I didn't have a combat moment to point to of why I'm so angry, why I'm so irritated all the time in Pittsburgh, why I feel like I hate the person in the mirror. This doesn't make sense, but it's all like pointing to PTSD type of stuff, right? Being easily irritated and everything.
Getting out alone, I mean,
that's a moment,
big thing.
right? Yeah, exactly. So the transitions themselves. So if in the book I talk about, I know we're kind of a little scattered here, but I think it's good. I talk about how do those things form? How do you get the cycle of comparison? Most people, when they think of a military person struggling, which again, this is why this isn't just for the military, they would think of trauma, PTS, right? Post-traumatic stress. Right. It's called PTS, by the way, now, not PTSD. I found that out. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They think of trauma. I'm like, not me. Therefore, I'm not allowed to hurt. What? That makes no sense. But that's what the enemy does, right? Is say, you're not qualified to struggle. So suck it up, and your voice is not important enough to be shared, right? Because you don't meet the image of what other people have, what other people are seeing and expecting from society. Okay, so here's the point. Trauma, training, transition, and timing are all 4 things that can cause this stuff to come up, right? Going through transition. It could even be a promotion, by the way. When I went and spoke at Fort Polk, we did 18 events in 5 days at Fort Polk. Okay. And I met with the commanding general there, and he said, you know what 9 of our recent suicides had in common? We don't see trauma in their stories. He said, there were 9 suicides, and 7 of them had this in common: transition. They all, something changed in their life that was pretty drastic. Jeez. A promotion, a demotion, a change of base, a marriage, a divorce. Even the good stuff can cause people to feel like I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, right? And the enemy starts to play around in that territory. So anyway, he's like, this talks about transition. We haven't thought about it this way, right? Like everyone's looking for like the warning signs, the risks and stuff. That are easier to find, like substance abuse, what else? Like I would say, combat, those type of things. And it's like, wait, trauma, training, you could train yourself to feel this or be trained, transitions, and then timing of life. So say all that because those 4 T's cause, in this case, the cycle of comparison for that person I mentioned, right? He didn't have trauma, but he was at a certain timing of his life, which is I'm just starting college and now I feel behind. He went through transition, which was getting out. And then he was trained by the Marines. I hate this, by the way. He was trained to believe you're not a Marine because you never deployed.
Oh, jeez.
He said that is the culture.
There's a guy that I'm thinking about right now. I'm not going to say his name, but I feel like I need to give him this because he fits that description, what you just said. But go ahead.
Wow.
Keep going.
Yeah, well,
which is another reason of why I'm glad that you wrote the book, because if you would have believed the lie that you were just talking about, imagine that. But because you wrote the book, helped me. I mean, but anyway, keep going.
Cool, man. Yeah, well, it wasn't easy to write it at all. It really hurt. I quit twice, and God reminded me, you're not allowed to quit on this one. This is an assignment, Adam.
Yeah.
You wanted assignments from me? Big dude, Mr. Ambitious and driven. Yeah. This is the assignment. Wow. I'm telling you to write this, and it was always said with love, but like, I remember being like, yeah, but I need to go figure out some finance things and I need to go get this gig and I need to, cause I was a speaker even before the book. Okay. And it was like, it's not time for that. It's time for you to write this book and then watch what happens next. And it was just helping people, serving, impact, it wasn't about me. This book is wasn't to serve me. It was an assignment from the Lord. How cool is it when you get an assignment from God that you get to say yes to? It's like you're writing your own little chapter, with him, in his book of life, right? In a way, it's like, I told you to do this and you did it. And look what we did because you partnered with me, because we're supposed to co-labor with Christ, right?
Good works that he's prepared in advance for us to do.
Yeah. So here we go. What's good is I'm good at keeping track in my head. So for anyone listening who's like, I don't know the 3rd and 4th step. Don't worry. I didn't forget. You detect which of those deceptions are affecting you. The book will help you. There's a workbook too that you could purchase on Amazon. The 3rd thing is you dismantle it. Okay. You pull it apart so you can see how it all has formed. And we take people through a process called the kill chain in there. And the 4th piece is you deploy counterattacks against these things. What's really on my heart is that we are not being attacked. okay, we are an influence in the world, and therefore we are hitting the defenses of the enemy, stopping warriors and high performers from really helping and serving and impacting and doing the things that they were caused to do by fighting from within. Right? There's like this African proverb that I heard of. It's like, if there's no enemy from within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. This causes us to fight inside, so we stop being as successful and reaching the impacts that we're called to. And I don't think impact's numbers. I think it's names, right? It's like the people we're supposed to be there for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. People closest to you.
Yeah. So I think that pulled it all together. But people could go to kingdomoperatives.com if they want us to, like, you know, bring a team in and run workshops and speak on this topic or leadership.
Okay.
And then the mastermind you mentioned, that's school, SKOOL.com /Kingdom Operatives.
Okay.
So if people go to the school platform, which you're probably familiar with school, they can create a free membership there and be able to participate in different live events we have. And every once in a while, like right now, currently we're running a 4-week accelerator. And, you know, by the time someone watches this, that would probably be over. But the point is, there'll be new accelerators, new programs, things like that they can get involved with if they want to go on a little bit of a journey and work through this together.
And that's via Zoom, I'm assuming, like a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Okay. Man, so many things you've said. Proverbs 19:21. I've said it on this show before. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. And as I'm listening to you, I just keep thinking about that verse because, you know, your purpose to write this book and your purpose to speak to the people you're speaking to and this podcast and all these things. And it's like when you surrender to the Lord, when you partner with God, it's amazing, like you said, where he takes you. So, man, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared. I'm going to put in the show notes where they can buy a copy of this book. We're going to put the website, right, to Kingdom Operatives, and then school. We'll put that link too.
Yeah.
And any lasting words you want to say to a steadfast man? Any lasting words?
Oh man, two things came to mind.
Yeah.
So the first one was one thing to write the book. It's another thing to see what God had planned for it, to your point. So like, I just want to zoom out for a second. Just think about this. An Army National Guard dude for 10 years of service with no deployments is meeting with commanding generals,
That's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
Now, how does that happen for a steadfast man? It happens by realizing this is more than you. It's not just about you. Our gifts are to us, but they are not for us. And, you know, in this case, I was writing a story that I didn't know I would one day share, right? Like I was reflecting and journaling and praying and recording conversations, you know, with others that one day made this book. And I guess the crazy thing is when you make it about yourself, you will actually underperform, you will overthink, and you will hesitate. Yeah. But if we can realize that when we feel fear, because really it comes down to fear, right? Whether it's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of not being enough, you know, all these things come down to that. When we feel fear, one of the best things you can do is recognize it's about your focus. So Qui-Gon Jinn teaches us this, all right? Master Jedi. He says your focus determines your reality. So again, for a steadfast man, recognize that your focus matters. And if you shift your focus, you will shatter your fear. Don't do this for you. You'll never do enough if it's just for you. It will never work if you're just trying to serve yourself. But if we shift our focus and we realize that fear falls when we focus on others, we shift our focus to our kids, to our spouse, to our community, to a cause, you will perform on such a higher scale.
I love it. I love it, man. Thank you so much. Like I said, I could go for another couple hours, but because of the time we have today, we'll cut it here. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Steadfast Men Unscripted. Check out Adam Jones and all that he has to offer, and we'll see you again on another episode. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks.